daughters, sisters, and wives. He says they're gonna change our lives. He says be women, be girls. They'll make a better world. Invest in her. Invest in her. Invest in her. Invest in her. And now here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Welcome to this week's edition of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation, both designed to help women get funded. And today I have an extraordinary guest. She is a Harvard alumni, and she is the CEO and co-founder of the Leadership for Entrepreneurial Leadership. Please welcome to the show, Jill Johnson. Hi, Jill. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. And I know that our name can be a mouthful. It is the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership, or IFEL, as we call it. So you can just say IFEL.
IFEL, okay. And I noticed that is the website, right?
It is. It's weareifel.org.
Right. And I'll spell that because a lot of people are listening only in audio. So it is WE, ARE, and then IFEL. So weareifel.org. And let's talk about that institute. But first, I just want to give a little bit of your background. You were just sharing with me that you're a Midwest girl because you were born in Iowa. Tell me a little bit about growing up there and how you made your way to New Jersey to do the work that you're doing now.
Yeah, well, truth be told, I grew up mostly in New Jersey, and that's what I remember, sort of by way of East Lansing, Michigan, when my parents were at Michigan State doing their graduate work. So I have very fond memories of college football in East Lansing. That was a lot of fun. But I essentially have Midwestern roots, whatever that means. Most of my family is actually still in the Midwest. My parents were in Kansas and Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri. So that was kind of where I grew up, going to visit in the summers, running around with like no shoes on and having lots of fun as a kid.
It sounds like a great childhood.
It was going to visit grandparents in the summer. But I did grow up in New Jersey, and that was really where, I think I kind of got that hustle and bustle of the East Coast. Mm-hmm. My parents were entrepreneurs. That's not something that they knew from their respective families. They were the first in their families to have their own business. And I do think that came from being on the East Coast, where it's just not uncommon for people to have, a business or a side hustle, as it might be, or be involved in different business ventures.
Right. And then it looks like after Harvard, you worked for a while for Goldman Sachs. So I guess that's how you kind of got into this financial world.
Well, I really got into it seeing my parents and their business as I was growing up. And I knew the world of business ownership. So I was hearing from a very young age, issues about cash flow and payroll and clients paying late, or, issues like that. Again, I had the benefit. My Goldman experience took that to a different level, right. And it was a different experience. But my foundation with business really started by observing my parents' journey through their small business experience.
And, I'm glad you just said that, because you're right. It was invaluable to have that Goldman Sachs experience to then bring to the entrepreneurial work that you're doing today, because every entrepreneur at some point needs funding and connections and mentorship in order to thrive, right? And right. We as women are at a disadvantage for that. And I know that's something that we're going to talk about at your upcoming event, the WOCON event, which is Women of Color
Connecting. Women of Color Connecting.
Yes, Women of Color Connecting. So that's WOCCON.org. That's coming up March 8th and 9th for those that are listening and want to participate, you can go to WOCCON.org and join us. I'm going to be on a panel there,
and we're very excited about that. It's March 8th through the 10th, and it's only 3 p.m. Eastern through about 6 p.m. And we'll have some networking at the end. So it's, again, just a few hours at the end of the day, but a time that we really believe people can spend thinking about the issues related to access to capital for people who have been historically excluded, especially women of color, but also how it is that we can all be more connected, that we can expand our respective networks, that we can meet new people who we didn't know, and really just explore topics in a very honest and authentic way so that we can all elevate the ideals in which we believe around inclusion and diversity.
Right. We have to be each other's allies for sure. And it was interesting. I was just on a call this morning because I'm working on a film, and the story is that this woman, she's a Black female founder. She has raised over $1 million. She's getting ready to raise another $1 million and then looking to raise $5 million. But she shared with me this morning that statistics show that less than 100 Black women have raised $1 million or more. And I was shocked at that statistic, although I don't know why I'm ever shocked.
Yeah.
So, like you said, women in general have a tough time getting funding. And then it's even harder for women of color. And so I'm really glad that you're putting on this event to have that discussion, because we have to have discussions if we're going to solve these issues, right? Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think, Catherine, that there are a lot of brilliant people that are out there who are doing really great work, and we have solved all sorts of issues, especially as of late, right? Related to the pandemic even. We can do this too. If we really put our heads together and we decide that we want to be intentional about changing how things are working around access to capital. And if we want to be more inclusive, we have to be intentional. And if we're intentional, I am very, very sure that we will come up with solutions. And that's really, again, what the WOCON Summit is all about. It is not an event that's just about women of color connecting to each other. It is really an event to convene the people who say that they are allies and investors and champions who believe in women of color. Well, this is an opportunity for all of them to get together, to deepen their understanding, and again, to figure out, how do we move forward? How do we get capital into the hands of these amazing women who really just need an opportunity?
Absolutely. And we do need that discussion. I'm really glad that you're doing this summit, and your work with the leadership, the Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute. Tell me about that. How do people get involved? What is that about?
Yeah, really, Catherine, it is the outgrowth of what my father says that he wished that they had when they started their business. My father and I are the co-founders of the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership. We started it back in 2002 together. And interestingly enough, I'll share that when we started it, we were originally thinking about starting a fund. And that would be for another show to discuss that. But, there were a whole host of reasons that we ended up getting steered into doing a nonprofit rather than starting a fund. And as you can imagine, back in 2002, there was not the same appetite as there is today even. So we started the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership, again, to be that resource to provide the very high touch, hands-on type of support that entrepreneurs need. I recognize that there is training, there much more training today than there was in 2002, but even then there were some training programs. But having observed my parents' business and their experience and that of their peer companies, and then having my Goldman Sachs experience layered on top of that, what I really understood was that just having a class or some training is not enough. it really requires that high touch, very hands-on type of support that others, and let's, say often white men, and I won't even say white men, it's people with resources.
Mhm.
It's, people with resources have that type of support within their personal and professional networks. So they get that. If you don't have those people in your network, where do you go for that kind of help? And you end up just making so many mistakes, which mistakes are natural. But if you make a lot of mistakes and you don't have a lot of resources, you can't, do all of this failing forward and learning and all the things that we like to say about failing. Failing can put you out of business really quickly because you just don't have the resources to recover.
Right. And what I love about what you're doing is it takes a village. And so, like you're saying, when your parents were starting their business, they probably didn't have a village around them. And it is more than about just the funding, although the funding is incredibly important. It is about the mentorship and about the camaraderie of having other people that know what you don't, and the connections that are all so important in the success of an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, and even just being able to ask a question, like let's say you have a simple legal or accounting question. Well, again, if you're a person with significant resources, typically there's someone in your family or within your network who you can, pick up the phone and say, hey, I have a couple of questions. Do you mind if I just run these by you? If you don't have that, then one, you often will just proceed without having that advice, which is, could put you out of business. Or two, you're trying to pay for that. You're finding someone and paying them. But if you have limited resources, it's draining your funds from being able to spend that money on something else, on payroll. It's shortening the runway that you have just to figure out how to get things right.
Exactly. And when we think about getting funding for women and for people of color, we have to recognize, I recently did a TED Talk called Fund Women Save the World. And what I noted in that was that people tend to invest in people they identify with. And that's one of the problems. It is mostly white men that are making the decision. So they don't relate to products of people that are different from them. And so don't you think one of the solutions, and I see it's one of your efforts, for me, it's getting more women to become angel investors, but I saw one of your efforts is to get more Black angel investors. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, one of the groups that we looked at was Golden Seeds and the work that they've done for many years. And the impact that their work and the work of others, again, who have focused on women, the impact that has had in terms of getting more women involved in angel investing, and the correlation that has resulted has been more women-led companies receiving angel investment capital. Well, there were two things where we said, well, one, even though people have said women broadly, we see that hasn't really been so inclusive of
Right.
women of color, unfortunately. And when you look again at the numbers for the Black population, we see very few Black companies getting angel funding and the number of Black investors being low. And so we said, well, hey, if this is working for white women, let's expand this and let's, bring this to the Black community, because it's just not something that most of us grew up talking about around the dinner table, and
Right.
angel investing, as you know, is very clubby. Typically someone, invites you into a deal or talks to you about their angel group. And if no one does that, you're just not part of the club. So we said, you know what, let's open up this club.
And, I'm also very hopeful because now I see a lot of Black owned started funds. We could mention, like, obviously Arlen Hamilton at Backstage. Sarah Kunst, who's doing Clio Capital. And I just heard of one yesterday that has a Black female general partner. It's brand new. It's called Fabric VC. So I wanted to share that with you. So
there's also the Rising America Fund led by Lorene Pendleton. And they have 5 partners that are running that. She's the lead, and I think they're running this, but all are women of color.
You know, this is what's hopeful, right? Is that exactly what you and I are talking about. The more we have women, people of color, LGBTQ in the angel investing and as limited partners in these venture groups, the more likely it is going to accelerate the funding of people that reflect those people. And so that's why it's so important that we have conversations like this and conferences and summits like the one that you're doing to talk about the solution, not just about the problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to something that you said, about having more people, about people investing in those who look like them, right? Or who are like them or from their same background or what have you. And that being a problem, I guess, Catherine, I recognize that is actually just human nature, right? We all gravitate to people who are like us often. We all do it. The challenge has been that there are groups that have been excluded from even being able to do that. And there's no pathway into the power structure that enables people to then do that within their own communities. If you had people from all communities and all walks of life who were participating, who were included, there would be more inclusion, right? By the very nature. Yes, and yes. The challenge is that power structure and the capital is remaining concentrated. The other thing that, we really look at is the fact that there's this argument, well, we invest for a return. So we have to be focused on our return. We can't focus on, being inclusive kind of thing, and that's deemed to be social or, othered, right? And what I say is that if you are truly focused on returns, you should be more inclusive. You should be looking Absolutely. At, white women, Black women, Asian, Native American. Like, you should be looking at every single group in every possible corner for innovation. And the example kind of that I give is the Negro Baseball League and the Major League Baseball, right? Is that MLB thought that they had all the best players until they figured out they didn't. When the Negro League Baseball players came over to the MLB, and you had some that didn't work out, true, but you had others that rose to the very top and were at the top of the league. And so there's no way that you can say that you are about returns if you're not truly being inclusive to know that you are producing the best returns. You're simply, looking for returns that are within a certain group, and you have the best of that group, but you don't really know that you have the best that is available.
And, I recently read that 55% of entrepreneurs are immigrants. So, you're really leaving out a lot of brain power and a lot of opportunity when you do that. I think that what we're saying is, on one hand, there do need to be more people at the table that look like the rest of the world in the financial decision making. But at the same time, the people that are at the table now need to also consider a bigger pool of people to invest in. So I think both of those things are true. I think the good thing about seeing more people of color starting their own funds and having great success is that it will then raise awareness to people that have not been investing in people different than themselves to stand up and look at, oh, I'm actually missing out on a whole plethora of opportunity, and then they will start to cross over. So I think it's moving in that direction. It's got a long way to go.
A very long way to go.
Very long way to go. But at least we're having this conversation and making some slow progress. Perhaps conversations like this will help accelerate it by bringing awareness. I hope that that's the case.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it starts with the conversation. It starts with awareness. We really try to create the WOCON Summit as a very safe space to have conversations, so that if people are there and asking questions, you're not penalized for asking questions. You're not canceled because you don't know. We all don't know different things about other people. So we have to have a place and an opportunity to ask, to find out, to be open, to be honest, to be truthful, and then to decide together to act. And that's really what we want to see. It's great talking about things, and we see a lot of the corporations that have done all these, big pledges and all these things that they're going to do, et cetera. And, then you look kind of a year later and, well, what's actually happened? What's changed? And we really are doubling down on the fact that it's individuals who need to change first before they can even change their corporations or larger institutions. We have to change as individuals, and we have to decide to act. So that's what we want people to do, is to come together and act. And it's a lot more fun doing it with a group of folks that, all want to do this together and that are open and enjoying the journey of making all of this happen.
I love that. Thank you for creating this platform for people to join. I'm honored to be on a panel there. I hope our listeners will take the time to come join this conversation, because what a unique opportunity. It's wocon.org. That's WOCCON.org. And where can they find out about it on social, Jill?
Yeah, we're at WOC Connecting on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, actually.
Okay, great. And where could they also learn about the Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute, so that they can, perhaps maybe join there?
Yeah. Again, on social media, we're at We Are IFEL on all of our social media. I encourage people to go to our website. We actually do have a number of opportunities for skills-based volunteerism. So we really encourage people. Again, that's another great way to get involved and to make a difference, and to be part of that, network of support, as we call it, a circle of support, for whether it's small, regular kind of, Main Street businesses that are of most interest to you, or the high touch, the high tech, potentially scalable businesses that we serve through Women of Color Connecting. We have opportunities to engage with either type of business, but volunteering, just the regular everyday skills that you use in your job, can make all the difference in the world for just unlocking the potential of these business owners that we support.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's so important and so uplifting, and just gives us some hope that things are going to change and move in a better direction. So please, everyone, join us at WOCON March 8th through the 10th, and also visit the Institute site. Perhaps it's something that could help you with your entrepreneurial experience. Jill, thank you for the work that you're doing. Everyone, please follow us, She Angel Investors. Visit our website, sheangelinvestors.com, where we have an e-course called 6 Ways to Fund Your Business. And you can follow me, Catherine Gray, at Invest in Her on Instagram as well. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Make it a great day. Thank you again, Jill, and I will see you at WOCON.
Thanks, Catherine.
Remember, if you're looking to launch a business or grow your business, check out our e-course, 6 Ways to Fund Your Business, available at sheangelinvestors.com.
music was created and produced by Lindsay Tomasic.